Hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcasting is Praxis, Skeleton Can edition. Hi, I'm Rob, my pronouns are he and him.
I'm Jamie, my pronouns are he and him.
And today we are once again joined by Matt Zarb-Cousin, former spokesman for Jeremy Corbyn and one of the co-founders of Gamban, a stop gambling app. Matt, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, my name's Matt, pronouns he, him, and yeah, great to be back on the pod. Lots has happened, I think, since the last time we spoke. A lot worse than it was.
Huge amount has happened.
Yeah. Although we have one slight improvement in the kind of political balance of things with the emergence of Zach and, you know, to a lesser extent, your party.
Yeah, I was gonna, not to get you to comment about your party. I think we'll just kind of see what happens with the launch and the meetings that are happening at the moment. I mean, all I will say at this moment is I'm quite happy to see some of the Independent Alliance MPs walking to the fucking door because, yes, big tent, but not that big.
Yeah. I think there was obviously a lot of positive energy initially, and it's obviously a shame that that's not been harnessed perhaps as best as it could have been. But it hasn't launched officially yet. Let's see how that goes. And I've always been a big advocate of trying to, get people to work together across the left. And ultimately the objective in 2029 needs to be to stop reform winning. That's the game at the moment. So it's going to require a bit of coordination, I think, in certain seats. And I think Kaya Philly showed that if the parties of the left work together and there's some kind of tactical voting or whatever, that there's a real opportunity to perhaps emulate what happened in France, where, to stop the far right, there was a bit more of a unified front. So let's see what happens. But
yeah, I mean, let's ignore what happened after, when Macron did what he did, but it's a different system of government, so that would be good. But before we get to our main topic, which I started working on a few weeks ago because I thought it'd be delightful and funny, and then it turned out to be a horrible carnival of underage gambling. But we'll get there in a bit. I wanted to start with some lighter news is I have really bad news for people who want money in their pocket. It turns out, and to everyone's shock and surprise, you may not actually get the £300 off your electricity bills by the end of 2030, so 5 years from now.
Well, I mean, I'm shocked to my core. Yeah,
so under questioning in Parliament, the CEO of GB Energy, which is a real company, and don't anybody ever say that it's not. When asked about that number, this is from the National. Quote, the GB Energy boss said, it's a much wider program. Big parts of that are down to government policy, wider government policy, and it's not for me to comment on. What I can say is that GB Energy's activities will work to have an impact in the areas that I've already outlined. So, fair enough. It's not entirely down to GB Energy, which that would be horribly depressing if it were. But yeah, no, this also will not be happening.
Oh well.
It just seems as though there's a lot of these kind of retail policies where promises are made, and really, unless you change the fundamentals of how the energy market works in Britain, I just think it's so depressing to see how much capital expenditure at the moment is being spent on the development of AI, which is a job destroyer fundamentally, and is going to enrich people who are already obscenely wealthy, who are pursuing profit without work, essentially. All of that capital expenditure from big tech, when it's going towards that objective, when if we just taxed those big companies properly, or tax them as we would have done 50, 60, 70 years ago, had they existed in that context, then we would have the funding, we would have the available We have the ability to invest in renewable energy, to actually do kind of strategic investment in the country, and that's the only way you can really get through this. I think is, lots of people on the right will say it's about net zero and it's about these kind of environmental targets and all that kind of stuff. It's complete nonsense. It's basically because we haven't invested properly in renewable energy, and that's the solution.
It can be, and it should be about both. Like, you can build out the energy supply and also do that in a sustainable way. Like, you don't have to, like, that is not a trade-off you have to make. And I mean, like, I think even if, like, we had, fusion power now and, like, we had infinite free energy, I still don't think we should be doing AI, because it is, in many ways an immoral technology. But, it's especially now.
I suppose the kind of contrast I was trying to project was that energy and energy consumption is about human need, and it's like fulfilling an absolute necessity for people, and AI is not that. It's actually competing with households for energy, and it's driving up the cost of electricity, and that's why our electricity bills are so high, and that's in the US it's even worse. They're actually reducing the availability of water in lots of places, all of these data centers. So it's just having a completely rapacious kind of effect on communities, and no one voted for this. So that's the other thing. I think, like, this kind of, I know you want to talk about AI a bit more later on, but for me it's just such a
it's wild.
Illustrative point, of like why everything is so screwed up that we're pursuing this thing.
Yeah, what we've seen recently with sort of the development of, like, these AI growth zones, these deregulatory spaces where, like, environmental laws presumably don't apply, and, like, they can just put themselves next to whatever reservoirs the UK does have, and it's just like, of all the technologies to bet the farm on, apart from maybe carbon capture and storage, this could possibly be the worst one. Like, it's just.
I would say it absolutely is the worst one, because carbon capture and storage just merely doesn't work, right? But, like, this just actively, like, degrades society at large. Do you know what I mean? Like, because, like Matt says, it's not gonna. I wouldn't say it's gonna take people's jobs, like, because it can't do anything. But I think, like, people are gonna lose their jobs. Do you know what I mean? But, like, to say that the AI has taken them implies that the AI now does the job. And I think what's going to happen is people are going to lose their jobs, be replaced by AI, and then someone else on less pay is going to have to try and, like, fix the outputs of that AI to make it, like, good enough for the job. And just gradually, like, the whole economy is just going to topple over, because all the people who actually did things are now, like, unemployed, and the companies just got rid of them all. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, that's exactly right. I think it's no one's really thinking this through. So, like, the stock market at the moment, the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, both, like, really getting pumped up by speculation, right? AI fueled speculation about what this might mean. People are investing in Nvidia and all of these kind of AI companies that are promising to deliver these returns by this particular year, by I think 2027, 2028 is when they say that they're going to start to show a profit. So all of it's based on speculation, but the bet is effectively, the people that are investing in this stuff, the bet is that the whole global economy will be upended, because either it's a bubble, right, and there's going to be a big stock market crash, or they actually deliver on what they say they're going to deliver, in which case everything in the whole economy needs to be rethought, right? So it's not just, it's going to have such a profound effect on everyone's lives, and such a structural level. And I don't think any politician that's kind of embracing AI and this kind of pseudo sort of gold rush no politician's thinking, well, what are the ramifications of this, other than, oh, well, maybe there'll be different types of jobs. But we're not talking about normal kind of technological displacement here, are we? Like, already I think 1 in 10 graduates in the US is unemployed, right? Because they're not.
Yeah, there's a huge crisis around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is sort of, but that leads quite neatly into, I still think, whether or not we'll ever be able to rid ourselves fully of this technology is just, I don't think we will, because like these, it's like, it's like nuclear bombs. We've invented them now. We have to sort of live with them in a certain manner or other. But like, I do think there wasn't a really interesting piece in the Financial Times the other day, which is that apparently a lot of the major American insurance companies don't actually want to touch AI-related product. I'll give you a little quote from the FT. In a significant shift within the insurance sector, major insurers such as AIG, Great American, and W.R. Barclay are reconsidering their coverage for liabilities concerning AI. This decision comes in light of growing anxieties over the potential of complex and costly claims stemming from the actions of AI systems, including chatbots and autonomous agents. So basically what these insurers, and these are like, AIG is I think maybe the biggest insurer in America, huge company, in hundreds of billions under management, is they want regulators to allow them to limit their liability to the downside of, you or your company using AI or the results created by AI, and, any billion-dollar lawsuit that stems from, like if you automated part of the health service and all of a sudden, the NHS chatbots start saying to people, you should, if you're suffering from diarrhea, should drink a quart of glue every day because like that will improve your digestive tract, and people get sick and die. Then like what these insurance companies want is to not like have those claims like bounced into their laps essentially.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's just not. It's not at the level that it can be carrying out very kind of sensitive roles. So, or I think if you've got like a sort of, I don't know, a suicide helpline or something, and you've got AI bots filtering people out, that would be completely inappropriate, wouldn't it? Because you some things do need human, and I've given an extreme example there, but like some things do need like human interaction, and to make sure, particularly at this sort of juncture. And I think there's been a rush by certain firms to kind of embrace it for efficiency purposes. But I think what's happening now is there's been a realization that it can't perhaps do all the things that they thought it could. And I think that Michael Berry obviously has taken a big short position on, I think, Palantir and Nvidia, and doesn't believe that it's going to deliver what the companies, the firms are saying that it's going to deliver in 2 or 3 years' time. And you just wonder, with like all the governments that have basically bought into this idea of like this going to be transformative for the economy, we've got to be a global leader in this thing. They're kind of all part of the bubble. They're kind of all complicit. And there's so many parallels for me with the financial crisis in like how
huge, enormously,
big
like
tech, yeah, big tech has like implicated all of the governments, right? So like it's almost become, even before it started making a profit, it's started to become too big to fail, because governments are going to lose a lot of face, right? If this stuff, and they start to like, really embed it into their systems in terms of like the apparatus of the state and all this sort of stuff, become reliant on it. And actually, no one really knows if it's going to deliver all those things that they say it's going to deliver. So, and it's a bit mad that it's like really kind of so prominent in terms of capital expenditure. It's like trillions of capital expenditures going on developing the chips and developing the infrastructure. And I find that just, it's a big gamble. It's a big gamble, and
it's an enormous gamble. Yeah. I mean, in its most positive sense, it's the gamble is, we've talked about, like, we talk about AI probably too much on this podcast, but it's because it's so prominent, like at the moment, I think, that one of the things we talked about before is that like the gamble is essentially is the God in the machine. Is like one day, like this thing won't be like this super janky, malfunctioning half the time, hallucinating piece of junk. One day it will become super intelligent. It will almost become it will achieve some form of, super thinking conscious essentially. And then therefore, I think, the bet at the end of the day is, if you are the person who owns the God in the machine, then you own the future. You own the next 50 years, and like everything else doesn't matter anymore. But it's only like if it does.
Sam Altman telling people that like the way they're going to make money is to invent God and then ask God how to make money.
Sort of, kind of. I mean, like the promises about it.
But I mean, I think the thing about it being too big to fail. I mean, I think that's like intentional. I think you've got people who it's they act as if they're like genuine true believers, right? Like they saw the Matrix in 1999 and just took it as like a prophecy, right? Like in the early 21st century, we invented AI, and they just think that that's nailed on, right? But there's people like that, and there's people who are like obvious grifters. But there's a lot of people who I think are aware of the fact that it doesn't do what they promise, and it probably never will. And I would say certainly never will. And the way they've made the business model make sense is to turn up at governments and say, you need this thing. Do you know what I mean? You need this thing. We'll it'll do everything. You can slash your budgets. You can save all this money. It'll make everything perfect. You can pitch it as the future of everything. And like whether the government is like, whether the MPs say like are fucking smart enough to know that's not true and are just like planning to get cause I think fundamentally a problem with a lot of like politics in the modern like age is like, it's like when this falls over, it's like, loads of people are gonna like suffer from the economy collapsing and like losing their jobs and all this sort of stuff. And it might even be because it's so like the British government have bet so much on it. It might even like, just like collapse the country to some extent. But do any of the MPs really care that much? I mean, they certainly don't care about like, the people who are going to be hurt. Like to people like Starmer and Reeves, we're all just lesser beings and like not to be thought about or listened to. We're just there. You know what I mean? It's our job to just vote the way we're fucking told.
I think I saw a story in the National that Starmer was thinking about giving energy discounts to big tech.
Yeah, to AI companies.
Yeah. And just thinking like, we've got this so like the wrong way around, like it. And I think I saw something about how if the adoption rate of AI reaches the levels it needs to get to for them to start making a profit, then the US would need like 6 new nuclear reactors or something.
Yeah, they would need insane
10 to 15 years to build
volume. Yeah.
Like the energy consumption is outrageous, right? And so never mind the technology and whether that we can win that arms race, so to speak, even if it's even possible, right? But once you've got the thing, the adoption rate has to be to such an extent that we have to have the energy infrastructure to be able to cater to that. And and the government's now saying, oh, well, we recognise that that's going to be a cost for AI and all that sort of stuff, so we'll give you discounts, right? But they're not going to give discounts to households, obviously. They're not going to give the £300 off. So it's like, we've got this totally the wrong way around. And I think it's become such a dominant thing in the same way that I think Bitcoin became basically such a dominant thing with the whole ecosystem and the whole like economy around Bitcoin. The capital that flowed into it, it's just a waste of, and that was an energy burn as well. Like I just find there's a lot of parallels there too. And so for me, AI, I think it is probably a bubble, and I think the bubble will burst in a couple of years. But by that point, the government would have spent so much and given so many concessions that I think it will feel as though it's implicated in that. And and I agree. I think it's going to have huge ramifications, particularly around like the judgment of government on these things and who it's listening to. Why are we allowing big tech to dictate our industrial strategy? That's what's happening across the Western world, and I find that there needs to be a reckoning on that at some point.
Yeah.
I mean that's why I find the like this with the insurance companies so interesting, because the insurance companies like have to be almost, they are, I don't know, maybe along with auditors are, for the most part I suppose, are like the last people that have to be honest, because they have to look at this and go, okay, maybe one day you'll have the God in the machine, but for now what we see is huge outstanding liabilities. Anthropic had to settle for $1.5 billion already with like a class action lawsuit of various authors whose works they just stole to train their models on. And it's like, that's just the first one. There's still a massive lawsuit from the New York Times against OpenAI that's ongoing. There's now, I think there are various lawsuits now of, bereaved parents, next of kin of people who took their own lives after, essentially AI-induced psychosis. And I think what they are looking at and saying like, okay, maybe one day, but for now, you are way too scary for us to touch. Like we can't, and also we cannot, if it really goes sideways, if like, these are still, apart from, the people whose work was stolen for the model training, like for now, these are still relatively isolated incidents. Like they're horrible, obviously, but like they're still small scale. But as we were talking about, like if government implements this, say your NHS app does get an OpenAI chatbot and it does start giving people catastrophic advice, because it cannot stop talking to you. Like it doesn't do that. And it will just, there will be just terrible outcomes. And at scale, especially in the US, if you get like a multi-billion judgment against you and it stands, then, these companies, they don't have like, if they don't have insurance, they have to pay it out of pocket. And that means they have to like use investor money. And then presumably some of the investors might go, hang on, like I paid, I gave you money to develop the God in the machine so I could get rich. I didn't give you money so you could, pay the fucking parents, or, the grieving parents of some poor kid who, harmed themselves after talking to the AI too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your brief AI update. Insurance companies now getting quite scared, and again, I don't think we'll be rid of this technology, but I don't think it'll take years for this bubble to burst, because it's so weird now.
Nah.
And like, there's so many parallels with 2008 at this point, with like all the weird financing stuff too, which is a different episode, or like not ours to discuss. Other people are maybe smarter to talk about that. But yeah, we'll see. But so let us now turn to the main topic, which is, apart from the delight of your presence, Matt, is why we had you on. So a couple weeks ago, I was just doing my usual scouring for news, and I caught this little item that said that the market for Counter-Strike Go skins had crashed by about $3 billion overnight. And I was like, that sounds very funny. It will just make some fun, of whoever's investing in that, because it's undoubtedly some weird, digital scam, like Bitcoin or some other, NFTs or whatever. I thought, it'll be much the same like that. And we'll just do it like, some quick 10-minute hit, and then we'll move on. And then I started reading about it. And then it turns out it's not so much as, well, it is still very funny that this happened, but that the underlying mechanics there and this market was much bigger than I thought, because, it was, if it lost 50% and that's $3 billion, and the total market is $6 billion. And it turns out that a lot of this is actually to do with illegal, probably underage, unregulated gambling that, anybody can do online, which is why Matt is here.
Yeah. So it's a very big community, much bigger than you think. I'd say it's definitely a bit of a subculture. I don't fully understand it, but I do know a bit about it. And Gamban sponsors an esports team that plays Counter-Strike called Ecstatic, and they're a top 50 team, and they're refusing to take gambling sponsorship, so that's why they're sponsored by Gamban, and they're actually one of only 2 teams in the top 50 that don't have a gambling company on the front of their shirts, and the other team, other than us, is sponsored by Saudi Arabia. So it's a hugely attractive
Jesus
space
Christ.
for
Wow, that's
for gambling companies. That the team that's first in the world is sponsored by Stake, which is obviously a very notorious gambling operator that let's say bends the rules a little bit sometimes and operates where it shouldn't be and advertises where it shouldn't, such as in the Premier League, by the way. It's no longer licensed in the UK, so shouldn't be sponsoring Everton Football Club, but it does. Anyway, so there's a kind of I suppose it's an attractive space for the kind of conventional gambling industry to infiltrate. It offers bets on esports. It tries to advertise to younger people. Younger people are more likely to get addicted to gambling. So there's a confluence of those factors. But separate to that is the skins betting ecosystem, which is driven by in-game items which you can purchase on Counter-Strike as kind of paraphernalia. They don't really give you an advantage in the game or anything like that. But what you can do, what Valve enables you to do, obviously Valve owns Steam, which is where the thing that you play the game through, is take that item off platform into third-party casinos which use the Valve API, and you can effectively gamble with the item as currency. So there are huge numbers of skins casinos, for want of advertising them. CSGO Roll is an example of one of these skins casinos where you can just basically buy skins for Counter-Strike, take it off the platform, and then use that to gamble with. And then if you win, you can, unlike something you might get in a loot box on FIFA Ultimate Team or whatever it's called these days, you can actually cash that skin out for real money. So it's gambling. Lots of children are getting involved in it, underage people. It's a huge problem, and the regulators don't have a clue what's going on. They have no idea. And obviously streaming and esports is becoming much more popular. I don't know if you see some of these LAN events where they sell out the O2 arena and people go and watch. It's a massive thing. One of the finals,
it's an enormous,
had like 1 million viewers on the stream and stuff. Like, so it's huge. And unfortunately, skins casinos have really toxified the space, and they're absolutely a factor as to why the skins economy is what it is, because people will use that as currency to gamble with.
Yeah, so that's definitely that's what I wanted to talk about. So especially because this was new for me as well, right? I played Counter-Strike for a number of years, but in the way back before, I think the millennium, when it was entirely free to play, and it was just a thing that you could download with the original Half-Life. And I had no idea that it got as big as it did, and it functions the way it did. So what I wanted to do a little bit tonight is sort of talk about this in a certain amount of detail, so people can get an idea of what it is, and then also talk about, as Matt, you were already saying, the sort of the casino side of it, the streamer side of it, and then sort of the what I think the broader implications of this is. What this means, and where I think it fits with sort of a broader pattern of gambling in society, and for younger people, and maybe even more for younger men. Although, as far as I understand it, this type of gambling is not very gendered. I think men and women both do this in sort of equal ratios.
Yeah, I think Counter-Strike's a very popular game, obviously, and I think the popularity of competitive playing, competitive gaming is obviously increasing all the time, and the way that people consume media lends itself to, I'd say, it being a much more solitary activity. So people will tend to watch things on their phones, and it's not. I think that kind of. I think the generation coming through now, in particular, very averse or not very used to the communal elements of watching TV and things like that. I think that's very atomized in the way they consume media. So the reason that's significant, I think, is because gambling, I think, online tends to be quite a solitary thing as well. So like to segue someone from the consumption of streaming around video games to then like the consumption of streaming around gambling, particularly if it relates in some way to Counter-Strike, if it's skins betting or something like that, to then the activity of skins betting. I mean, some of the streamers, I think is a great example of why this is the case, that some of the streamers are offered millions of dollars a month to promote certain skins casinos. It's such a hugely lucrative thing. And clearly the consumption of media through streaming platforms, that's a huge pool of young people that are being targeted by these companies. And as I say, it's not just about the normalization of gambling and the kind of more conventional gambling brands within esports itself, but it's also these skins casinos that have gone under the radar.
Yeah, and I in preparation for this, I watched some sort of like some video essays of people in the Counter-Strike community who are opposed to this, but I also just like out of curiosity just to see what it's like. I mean, like you could just do this, like, maybe at home, pause the recording for a moment and just like go to YouTube, maybe do it in anonymous mode so like your algorithm doesn't get ruined for the next 5 years. But like just type in like CS:GO box opening or something, and like what you will see, it is a roulette wheel. There's no other way around it. So like at this point, I think we're gonna have to take a small step back, and I have to explain what this is a little bit for people who are not familiar with Counter-Strike or with these mechanisms. So Counter-Strike is one of the oldest team-based deathmatch games. It's got various modes, it's got various guns, etc. It's team versus team, and there's an objective. Somebody wins, somebody loses. The current most popular version is Counter-Strike 2, which is an updated version of Counter-Strike Go. Counter-Strike Go stands for Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Everybody just calls it Counter-Strike or CSGO. And it basically, it was a relatively popular game. Like, it wasn't top tier like Team Fortress 2 or Fortnite or some of the other like massive games. And it was doing all right until Valve did this new thing that was sort of the birth of the ecosystem, but that we were just talking about, is they essentially created this idea that you could have skins for weapons and characters that you can acquire in-game or just outside the game, but also trade them for real money, for real currency. Of all the gin joints in all the worlds, this mechanism was developed at a time when Yanis Varoufakis was economist in residence at Valve, which is one of the weirdest coincidences in human history. But there we are.
I just want to interject with a nerd point of order, which is I don't think you can get skins for characters, because I think that would like.
I know you're right. You're right. It is just yeah. Well, I mean,
just so no one accuses us of not knowing what we're talking about. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if you want to get into the truly nerd point of it, one of the things that you can get, which was up until the market crashed a couple of weeks ago, the rarest thing was gloves. You could have individualized gloves. So whatever, we're both right. We'll share it. So like again, but like digital markets for skins or items are not new, right? These are very well established. We don't like any of them. It all started with horse armor, as people who really know this stuff will probably know. But where Valve is, and Matt already alluded to it, is where Valve and which is the company behind Counter-Strike Go, is different from all other companies, is that not only do they allow cash transfers for these virtual tinsels, essentially, but they also actively cooperate with third-party marketplaces. So Valve has its own marketplace, which is called Steam. And the idea there is that once your money is inside the Steam account, you cannot take it out. It stays there, which is also how Valve can pretend to legislators that it's not a casino, that it's not, taking profit from casinos, because on their official marketplace, you can trade your a rare skin or a rare knife or something for dollars, but you cannot take that money out of the system. It stays there. You can only buy more video games or more skins with it. It's locked. But what they have allowed is third-party marketplaces where it is very easy to log in using the details of your Steam account and to then gamble, trade skins, and those third-party marketplaces, there are tons of them, and they are all the sponsors of these teams that I was talking about, where it is very easy to trade in skins directly for US dollars. You can get it for crypto. There's all kinds of ways to get money out of the system, essentially.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense, right? Because the skin itself, I don't think ever leaves Steam. I think what I'd imagine there's just an escrow account on Steam somewhere that stuff gets handed to, but people will pay real money for the skins in Counter-Strike, and so if you're a third party site, you can have people gamble with the skins, and then they lose the skins, and then someone can pay you real money for the skin, and then you keep that money and just give them the item, which to you has no intrinsic value because it's on Valve servers. So it is a surprise to me that Valve allow this sort of thing, but again, with the items not actually leaving their servers, as long as they've got an API for you to handle trades from off-site, that's basically all that's going on here, right? Do you know what I mean? You just telling Valve
technically, yes.
Yeah, you're just telling Valve, I own this skin now, and this guy's already giving you his he's already logged in and signed it over, so you can just take it off him when he loses at the gambling.
But what these third-party platforms are illegal casinos. And,
they are. Yes, 100%.
And the that should be a black market enforcement issue, really. I mean, it's money laundering. If you're offering illegal gambling, that's tantamount to money laundering because it's proceeds of crime. Yeah. So there should be, be prioritised in terms of shutting it down and like it would any other illegal operation, right? It's crazy that's been kind of thought of as not gambling or turned a blind eye to it, really.
The thing that gets me is that every so often you'll get a scandal where it turns out a streamer was promoting one of these sites by gambling and showing how much they won. They do a stream and they we're gonna do some spins or whatever the fuck they do, and oh wow, look, we got this really cool rare skin or something like that, and it turns out it was rigged. They were paid to do that stream and not tell anyone that they were paid. Do you know what I mean? Because they were meant to give the impression that it was really easy to win this stuff, and then it turns out oh, you know what I mean? Actually, it was all just a big scam to convince millions of children to put Counter-Strike skins into this. But it's that's happened a couple of times at least, I'm sure, and I don't doubt it'll happen.
Yeah,
again
it will happen again. Yeah. I mean, what are the reasons that Valve? I think there are two main reasons that Valve does this. The first one is what you can see is that the popularity of the game CS:GO goes up at the exact same rate as the popularity of this type of gambling goes up, right? Because you have to at least have an account linked to this game in order to send and receive skins. So technically, Valve has more and more people, quote unquote, playing because most of them don't play. They just have an account so they can do this type of gambling or this type of market making or trading, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's part one. Part two is in order to get items into this market. One of the things, and this was an invention of Valve again in the time that I think that Varoufakis was there, is what they created was not just loot boxes, because those were around a long time before. Is that what Valve implemented is the box itself is free. Like, you can just get that through normal play, or you can, give one to friends, or there's various ways of acquiring them. But in order to like open it and get to, the juicy goods within, you need to also have a key. And in order to acquire the key, you have to pay Valve $2.50 or local currency equivalent thereof every time you open one of these boxes. So like, Valve takes a 50% cut if you trade on their official marketplace, which not everybody does because that's quite expensive. But like, where Valve makes its real money is these small $2.50 payments again and again and again and again and again, as people all over the world spin the inside Valve roulette wheel in the hope of getting something rare that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, and isn't it more that they want these casinos to exist because people are more likely to spend more money within their platform if they have an opportunity to then take that item and gamble it or cash it out elsewhere.
Yes,
right. Yes, it's like a kind of marriage of convenience, right? Like it's
Sorry, just a brief point of information for the listeners. At this point, it's just me and Matt left. Jamie's electricity's just gone out, so skeleton crew hours. But we will soldier on.
It's the AI bloody data centers. That's what it is, taking all the electricity.
Exactly. So, like, I think Valve just like. It's hard to find numbers because they're a private company. They don't have to publish numbers apart from like very summary stuff, and they don't because they don't have to. They're also notorious in the video game industry for just not answering press questions. They don't. They just shut up. But like, it is that I've forgotten what the exact estimates were, but they are certainly in the hundreds of millions of dollars that Valve earns every year from just people opening boxes. And like, it's and therefore anything that stimulates people to open more boxes at any time because they want to, get the really rare stuff that they can then trade or gamble on these secondary sites just makes more money for them endlessly.
Definitely. So what we do at Gamban is we are able to block just the third party casino sites. So people still be able to play the game and even buy the skins and all that sort of stuff if they want in the marketplace, but not gamble with them. And it obviously stays on the platform then. So we get a lot of users who are obviously big fans of Counter-Strike and they want to be able to enjoy the community and playing the game. And
play the game, which is fine. Yeah,
all of that. Yeah, and not have to be sucked into all that other stuff. And I think legislators will start to take more of an interest in this as it progresses because it's growing every year and it's becoming definitely becoming a big problem, or it already is a big problem, but it's becoming a bigger problem. And I think, there's one thing I want to try and do, hopefully, is just to kind of increase the salience of the issue among policymakers. And I think there are a lot of gambling researchers now taking an interest in it, and that's always a good sign because usually that kind of influences policy to some extent. So I think there will be something done about it eventually. But what bemuses me is these are illegal casinos, and I think it has to be looked at through that lens. And I just don't think the Gambling Commission or the government has figured that out yet. Has like recognised this is like illegal gambling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any other way. And sorry, just to briefly go back to the box opening thing, because I knew I had the numbers in the notes somewhere. So this is from an article in Barron's from 2024. Quote, a third-party estimate from the CS2 case tracker says that players spent $980 million opening more than 400 million Counter-Strike loot boxes in 2023. So that is just like, I don't know, minus some very negligent server costs on Valve's end, that's almost $1 billion in pure profit. That's free money. And if you're Valve, why would you ever kill the golden goose that lets 400 million times $2.50 walk out the door? Why would you ever let that go? Especially when you get to pretend it's these third-party sites that are the problem.
Yeah.
Well, it's wild because back in 2000, it's either 16 or 18, but I'm fairly sure it's 2016. Like, this was already a known problem, right? These illegal casinos, this underage gambling, and like there were a lot of people in the in the Counter-Strike community as well, and who was saying to Valve, "This is a massive problem. You need to fix this. It's yours to fix, so you need to do it." So what they did is they sent to, I think, something like 40 or 45 different websites of these third-party skins traders, skins gamblers, or illegal casinos. They sent, notifications saying you have to cease your online gambling operations, or we will cut you off from our API, from access to the Steam store, and that would kill them stone dead within 3 days or something. Because if you don't have that ease click through, it just stops straight off the bat. But then I think out of the 42 or 43 companies that got one of these cease and desist letters from Valve, 8 or 10 of them are still in operation today. So,
it's all like a smoke and mirrors thing.
Yeah.
Basically.
So a little bit more mechanics, because this is what allows like a marketplace to turn into a full-on casino. So there's 3 ways to trade skins, to trade closed loot boxes, and to trade these keys for opening. You can do it through the Steam Marketplace, the official safest way to do it, where Valve does take a 13.5% cut of whatever you pay to whoever else. Valve takes almost 14% of that. There's third-party marketplaces. I'm just naming 2 just so you get an idea of what these things are called, not to obviously do promo. One of them is called Skins Monkey. There's Price Empire. There's a load of other awful places that are quasi-regulated, and they only charge 5 to 10% for these trades. Or you could do it directly between you and your friends, or like an anonymous stranger online who claims that they can sell you the thing you desperately wanted. Then there's 0% commission on the whole thing. But obviously, the less commission there is, the higher your risk of scams is. Phishing links, key scams, middleman scams, last-second item switches. These are all incredibly common. If you were around in the era of NFT scams, they're all the same. They just look different. It's all the same thing, all the same scams, all the time. Part of the reason this market, like I was saying up top, this market is now, or was, somewhere between $6 and $7 billion, is part of the reason it got so big, because that's according to an article I read in Bloomberg. It's because it is such a big or a mature market, in another term of it, it turns out that people who have no interest in this game whatsoever, but who do like to speculate on things, get into it. So according to Bloomberg, companies and people wanted to diversify out of Bitcoins and NFTs and into more stable assets like Counter-Strike skins, which shows the level of gambling that we're talking about.
Yeah. And what was the change that Valve made? So basically you could swap 5 second-tier skins for one top-tier skin, right? So that's what collapsed the whole economy. And that's the thing, Yeah.
So the rarest, or previously, as of a few weeks ago, or until a few weeks ago, I should say, the rarest things were knives and gloves, because those were the most difficult to get out of these loot boxes. They were statistically very unlikely to emerge. So, and because rarity, scarcity creates demand, and therefore the most in-demand things were certain types of knives and gloves, which were called stat track, and you could only get those through essentially hitting the jackpot, or getting the number right on the roulette wheel, but with much worse odds. But what changed a couple of weeks ago is that Valve implemented a system where you could take 5 items of the second tier of rarity, which were still rare but not nearly as expensive, and you could put them in a box and sort of transmogrify them into a set of gloves or a knife. and therefore all the rarest items could now be, increased in quantity significantly, and that dropped their value. That's sort of the technicality of what happened.
Wow. So that's it's not a decentralized thing, is it? It's a unilateral decision by Valve for whatever reason.
And one of the reasons, at least, that is nobody really, again, Valve doesn't have to explain itself because it's a private company. And like when you make an account on Steam, when you play Counter-Strike Go, you play at their pleasure, terms of service, right? So like they don't have to explain themselves, but the theory that I read, which sort of makes sense, is that like what Valve wanted to do is like take some of the real excess of the gambling out of the market, because like if you're paying a 13.5% commission on $200, it might not matter so much to you. But if you're paying 13.5% commission on $25,000, it might make like you will be more likely to use these secondary markets. So like what Valve wanted to do was like calm the market down so they could have a bigger cut of the overall like transfer market, if that makes sense.
Wow. So it's in their interest to have basically everything being cheaper. The market
to crash the market, hopefully attract like more people back into their walled garden, and then like have more, like rake more money off the top with transactions now that like the prices aren't as explosively weird as they were before. But again, this is theory because Valve doesn't have to explain itself and doesn't. And so this is where part of the reason, I mean, this is one of the many reasons that like I wanted to have Matt on, is what you get in this, and Matt's already said it several times, is this whole system leads to illegal online casinos, because what used to happen like in when this was first invented is that people would just like trade these items back and forth to each other, and then scarcity created demand, and then very rare things were worth a lot of money. But what you now can do is, instead of like using your credit card or your parents' credit card in many cases to like gamble with actual dollars, is what you can do is you can gamble with a skin, but a skin is worth a certain amount. And like these places, these marketplaces all have just all the straightforward casino games. They have roulette wheels, they have coin flips, they have pachinko, they have slots, but you are technically using skins and not straight cash. So is it gambling? Question mark. You're just like, skins are just chips, right? In most casinos, you don't pay with
exactly
a stack of
Exactly, and the definition of gambling in the 2005 Gambling Act, the legislation, the primary legislation, is a wager for money or money's worth, and skins are of money's worth because you can cash them out. Now you can't necessarily cash them out on the Valve platform, but that doesn't matter. You can still cash that out. And this was my argument with loot boxes as well, is even though you can't necessarily cash out what you might get on EAFC Ultimate Team, you can that is still a value. That's still a value. People will spend money to try to obtain that player to compete in the game, and it's an enhancing addition to trying to win, right? It's actually has an enhancing effect. It's not like a skin, which doesn't have an enhancing effect, but that's even more like gambling in my view, because you can cash it out. So for me, this meets the definition of gambling. It's not regulated, so therefore it's illegal gambling, and the fact that this has been allowed to go on, I think it must constitute such a significant proportion of the gambling that's done by under 18s, and we're quite an unusual gambling market compared to the rest of the world. So we have never had a period of time where online gambling's been illegal. It wasn't illegal before we started licensing it in 2014, and since then. In 2014, we basically have given everyone a license, right? We've been very, very permissive about who gets a license. So the black market in Britain has been very, very small by international standards. That hasn't obviously stopped the gambling lobby saying don't regulate us or tax us too much because you're going to drive the black market. What's actually happening is people are being targeted who have already self-excluded from the regulated market, so they shouldn't be in the regulated market anyway, and that's not the regulated market losing customers because they can't be competitive. They shouldn't be allowing those people to gamble with them anyway. And it's also, I think, skins betting and crypto casinos and things that just don't have any safeguards whatsoever for young people, no age verification. And so this has got to be a priority. So I think if the government's worried about, the industry scaremongering about the black market, I mean, it's right on their doorstep. It's right here. And it's been here, as you say, for more than 10 years. And I would say, start with Stake as well, like Stake, the crypto casino, advertising with Everton. Like, why on earth has nothing been done about that? So I think it's so egregious. I think it's one of those things that if the more people know about it and the more it gets into the mainstream, the more it just becomes inevitable that there will be a clampdown.
Hello, and thank you for choosing Podcasting is Praxis. Our podcasters are experiencing an unusually high volume of unfunny bits at the moment, so you've been placed in a queue. Your patronage is important to us, and I need to inform you of the great benefits you freeloaders are missing out on by not subscribing on Patreon. A back catalogue of premium episodes, plus
2 bonus episodes
every month, ad-free regular episodes, plus you get access to our Discord, which, in addition to being able to harass the Praxis Cast crew with your favourite Star Wars characters, will allow you to listen to all of your favourite cutting room floor moments, such as... and...
Fuck off, Alistair.
Subscribing lets us create more of these hilarious moments, so please do subscribe for just $5 a month on patreon.com/praxiscast. And now, back to the episode.
Matt, I think what you were saying about no age verification stuff, I think that's really important also for people to understand with regards to the licenses. So it is quite easy in the UK to get a license to operate an online casino, but in order to operate one, especially if it's on on apps and on people's phones, you do have to when you log in or make an account, you have to show ID or show a credit card. You have to there is some form of age verification in not that they're good, but in a normal quote unquote online casino, like a regulated one. There's some form of age verification, right?
Yeah, there is. I mean, look, I don't think the regulations for online gambling are sufficient at all. I think there's huge amounts of gambling-related harm associated with, in particular, online casinos. However, there are at least some very rudimentary standards that are applied to licensees. Like, you have to make sure someone is at least 18 and there are proper KYC checks, know your customer checks. You have to, offer things like deposit limits and self-exclusion, and there are some safeguards that are available for people. There just aren't, obviously, in the unregulated market. And the way to deal with the unregulated market is not to say, the regulated operators have to be able to compete with the unregulated market, which isn't regulated at all, and so has no standards whatsoever. It's to basically do enforcement work and to actually ensure that the people that are accessing consumers and exploiting them effectively, because particularly if they're children or underage, that they're not able to do that, and that the people behind these operations are brought to account. And I think that's been a real reservation of the kind of regulatory establishment and the government more generally when it comes to anything that's internet based. And I find that quite an interesting phenomenon of this belief or this almost ideology that permeates, that's we can't regulate the internet, and doing so would be somehow this kind of crazy illiberal thing. It's you can regulate the internet. You absolutely can. Yeah. You can. Also,
they brought in that stupid law that you can't, watch pornography online without age verification. So, if you want to, you can quite easily. Not easily, but it's not impossible. You just choose not to do these things.
So that was a really interesting example, right? Of something that you would argue. I would say that has really gone against the grain of most government policy and how it approaches internet regulation. In that it was quite a severe thing.
The thing with that though is that it only applies to companies that are like legitimate. Do you know what I mean? So like because the big problem with the Online Safety Act was that with help from Ofcom, people could immediately like head off to sites that just didn't give a shit about obeying the law, you know, and those, you would argue that those are the sites that maybe people shouldn't be looking at, right? The ones that, because if they won't obey the law about age regulation, you know, despite the penalties associated with it, they're probably not probably ignoring other laws about the type of content they're showing. But it's difficult to regulate like a business if that business is prepared to like flout the law online. You know, if it's a business in another country and you're going to say, right, well, okay, we're going to block, like, I mean, like take like Pirate Bay for example, where it's like, where we're going to block every ISP in the country is like required to block people from accessing Pirate Bay. So there's like a whole network of proxies and mirrors for the Pirate Bay, and they can't block them all. And if they could, then more would just come up. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it becomes difficult to do, and the government's just not interested in like chasing it, because you could regulate it, but you would have to pay for people who were going to enforce it, and they're not going to do that, are they? They're not in the business of creating jobs. That's for business itself to do. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think it's like about actually, because I think this is the thing about the internet regulation. I think there are things you can do to raise standards, and then there will always be things that fall through the cracks. And I think like you kind of take a macro sort of view of it, and where there are like people that are not willing to fall within a regulatory framework, or like who are engaged in offering illegal gambling or whatever, the action of government then should be to say, let's play whack-a-mole. It's like, let's actually go after the people that are behind it. Who is harbouring the individuals that are running this operation? Because it's always, ultimately, it's people at the end of the day. Yeah. And I think that's where we've got it really badly wrong with this stuff, is that we've sort of tried to see the internet as something like, I don't know, that's not real. And that, actually it is just effectively like comprised of things that are created by people. And you know, you can do something about that. You can hold them to account. Now they may be offshore, but you then have a opportunity to have some kind of bilateral relationship with that jurisdiction, where, you know, or there's some kind of diplomatic approach that you could take if it's a real big problem. But again, like, it has to be based on the kind of like whether it's severe enough in the macro. And I think a lot of the time when you introduce things like this, 95, maybe even 98% of people actually just do the thing. Like, there's very few kind of people that fall through the cracks, so to speak. And I think that the real problem with the skins betting is that obviously they haven't even recognised this as illegal gambling. They haven't even tried enforcement. They haven't even tried to do like even the very most basic enforcement against it. And that's the same, I think, for a lot of these crypto casinos. I mean, as I say, Stake is still advertising Everton, and it hasn't. It's still sponsoring Everton. Advertised at every single Everton match. Stake.com, and it's illegal in Britain. They're not supposed to have access to any British consumers, and I find that, you know, again, for me, it's just like not. If it was anything else other than gambling, I just wonder if they were selling other forms of contraband, would they take this a bit more seriously? Because ultimately, it's still money laundering.
I mean, I think they undeniably give it like a softer touch because it's gambling. Because gambling is like, you know what I mean? It's like it's a legitimate business, and you know what I mean. You see, I mean, if you watch TV after the watershed, like half the adverts are for like online casinos. Do you know what I mean? And I saw a thing the other day where apparently Sky Bet or something are just siphoning all their money offshore.
Yeah,
like they're based somewhere else, and it's like it's a huge industry. But I think a key factor in the government not taking illegal casinos seriously is going to be that like it's not like a popular campaign yet. Do you know what I mean? It's going to require, like, for them, it's difficult to do. If it was an easy win, they would probably jump all over it because they love an easy win. But it's not like it's going to be difficult. It's going to take work, which they're averse to. No MPs have it as or at least none that I know of, have it as a sort of pet issue in the same way that, like, you know, MPs have various things as pet issues that they'll never, you know what I mean? Like, they're just constantly making our lives worse with stuff. But when it's something that would actually improve things, then they don't want to know. The two big hopes for getting, like, attention on this from the government, I would say, are somebody important loses money because of it, or the papers pick it up. Because we know when the papers, like, say jump, like, the government just asks how high, right? That's like, that's how Britain works. So
tends to be my my approach to campaigning is to get things in the mainstream media. So I think we need a big story on it. And I agree. It usually does take someone of prominence having been involved in it, and perhaps the generation that's now engaged the most, when they grow up a bit. And they're able to speak more openly about what happened when they were younger and whatever. I feel like there's been perhaps a lack of young people coming forward about addiction issues, or I think it's just been like a less of a preponderance for them to speak openly about stuff like that. So hopefully it's something that will be addressed with time.
Because, like, what we're starting to see now is that, like, there was a study done by the UK Society for the Study of Addiction that, like, skins gambling, this particular, like, Counter-Strike, I think there are other games where you can do this as well, but Counter-Strike really is the big one, is particularly difficult for young people. It did a longitudinal study in 2022 of ages 16 to 26 that out of the 19 forms of gambling available, participation in skins gambling was one of the strongest predicators of elevated scores on the problem gambling severity index. Basically, how likely are you to not gamble occasionally but develop an addiction or a problem? So, like, this form in particular leads to problems. Like, it leads to very severe issues in later life. And the fact that, like, you can log into any one of these, like, marketplaces, online casinos, whatever you want to call them, like, all you have to do to log in is, like, you have to log in with your Steam account so it can link to your, you know, to your basket and send you whatever skins or take whatever skins you lose. And you just have to do, you know, the stupid online box tick. Yes, I am over 18. Tick. And then you're in. And then, like, as the thing is, like, as long as you keep gambling and specifically as long as you keep losing money, none of these places will ever check. The only time, at least this is from what I saw watching, like, a number of streamers, is, like, the only time these places will start to say, hang on a minute, are you actually 18, is if you win big at the roulette table or win big at pachinko or whatever, however unlikely that is to happen to you. But some people do. And if you want to cash out, like, your several $1,000s or tens of thousands of dollars worth of skins and say, give me money now or give me crypto now, then sometimes they'll go, can you show us your ID? And if you can't, they'll keep the money because you weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah. I think a big problem as well is that they're probably, like, until that happens, they're probably content to pass the buck on age verification to Steam, because I think you're not supposed to be playing Counter-Strike unless you're 18. Like, I think, you know what I mean? And you're not supposed to, but Steam, I know Steam has restricted access to some games since the Online Safety Act came in, based on whether or not the account has used a credit card, which, like, I would argue isn't a particularly great way of verifying someone's age, like, on Steam, right? Like, I know it's supposed to be, because a debit card you can get at 16, but a credit card you can't get till 18. So if you have a credit card, you must be an adult. But, like, ask anyone who's like, kids have a Steam account and they've probably just, you know, gone on. Like, if your kid gets the account when they're young enough, you probably set it up and put your card details in and bought games for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I would argue that most kids with a Steam account probably count as age verified by that metric. Like,
even worse than that being a terrible way of judging if someone's 18 or not, I think it's just a way of gambling with a credit card, which is not allowed in the regulated market.
Oh, yeah,
so actually, that's another circumvention of regulations, which should interest the regulator, but it doesn't.
Yeah, so just to put this into because we've been going for a bit now, I wanted to before we wrap up, what I really wanted to talk about is something that I messaged you about, Matt, when I asked you to come on, is sort of how much everything is just gambling now. Like, this is gambling on accessories in video games. I mean, sports betting is a whole different show that I think we'll probably do sometime in the future. But it is I know is explosively huge in the UK and certainly in the US and at other places. It's completely out of control. Politics or prediction markets, like just fucking where you could just bet on anything.
I'll tell you what's really really interesting about the prediction markets. Well, it is to me. I don't know if it, but is how in the US, obviously, sports betting's only been legal since 2018, but it's been legalized or regulated by the states. So each state will pass a state law. So it's not federally illegal, but each state will pass a law saying sports betting is now legal. 35 or 36 states have done so. And I think 7 have legalized online casino. So that's been expanding, and there hasn't been a kind of attempt to row that back. But what's really interesting is California hasn't legalized it yet, because online gambling is the preserve of the tribes in California. So they're allowed to offer gambling on federal land, on the tribal land, and they're also allowed to offer online gambling. So there's been a lot of resistance from them, and also from the bricks and mortar gambling venues to getting online gambling. But what the prediction markets have done is that they have said, this is not sports betting, it is a futures contract, and that is regulated by the CFTC, which is the commodities regulator in Chicago, and
also famously institutionally captured, incredibly so.
So they're operating in all 50 states, and they have sports betting. They're now actually one of them. I think it's Kalshi that's integrated into Robinhood, so you can have your 401k.
Yeah, I think Kalshi's either integrated or Robinhood started its own predictions market.
I think I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's powered by either Polymarket or Kalshi. I'm pretty sure it's Kalshi, but in any case, it's the fact that you can, this gamification of everything. You have your pension, your 401k on Robinhood, right, which is already a frictionless trading platform, right? It's hardly built for long-term investing. It's encouraging you to keep checking your trades and your changing your position and all this kind of stuff, and it's making money on the transactions, so it's trying to get you to overtrade, and then it's throwing in predictions in there, like as if that's just some sort of extension of investing in some way, because it's a financial transaction. So it's crazy how everything is becoming like speculation, and I think that encroachment of like speculation into all of these things, which have conventionally been considered to be kind of like conservative investments, and like, I don't know, safe kind of options for your money, it is extremely dangerous, and that's going to have huge like profound effects. I think we've had a similar sort of taste of it with the leverage trading apps, where you can have your ISA and then get cross promoted onto, like, I don't know, trading with leverage, which is basically gambling on the price movements of certain commodities. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and also for like, I mean, if you were unaware of the scale of this of these prediction markets, like it used to be like a smaller thing where it was really, I think, more related to like pure politics, so who would win what election and so on and so forth. But like, I think last year there was this enormous sort of debate that ended up, I think, even in several lawsuits, because I think this was Polymarket. There was a massive bet as to whether or not the next time Zelensky would visit Donald Trump, whether or not he would wear a suit. And what he was wearing was like a black jacket and a shirt, but it didn't quite look like a suit. or it did, depending on. But like on that question, will Zelensky wear a suit? Two people had bet about $200 million in crypto, and therefore the definition of suit becomes very important, because if there's $200 million in gambling riding on that, then it's no longer like a fun thing. You know, you are asking the question, you are asking important economic, well, not important economic, but, you know, very high stakes questions. And like the fact that we, either by ignorance or by just self-service, have allowed these things to take such a hole in our society. And I know, Matt, you were also already referencing like day trading with Robinhood. Like my uncle is, you know, like is on Robinhood or equivalent thereof, and he's just like, every time you talk to him, every fucking 5 minutes, he's checking his fucking day trading app, because he's not, you know, he's not buying stocks because he believes in the company. He just wants line, you know, and he gets upset if line doesn't go up, you know. And it's like, crypto is, of course, like, we don't even have to talk about that anymore. And I'm just like, maybe this is too big a theory, right? Like, I'm perfectly willing to concede that this might have some real flaws in it, but like, for me, it's like, as the promise of capitalism, you know, of the modern form of capitalism, which is sort of like, you work hard, you go to school, you get an education, you get a decent job, and then, you know, you stabilize, you get a house, you get a family, and then you will have a better life than your parents or equivalent thereof. And I don't think that's, and a lot of people still actually believe in that, like, not young people for sure. And like, as more just devolves into gambling and the influences around you, and like the fucking, you know, the Counter-Strike Go players that you admire as because they play the game at such a high skill, you know, get paid six-figure sums every month to promote gambling, and, you know, they show videos of themselves winning at gambling. Why not just fucking gamble, you know?
Yeah, it's like presented as a viable way out, and you know, it's like, yeah, I can see why when you combine the kind of economic context with the advertising and the kind of ubiquity of the promotions, and there's a fatalism, I think, that underpins it all, isn't there? Like, that nothing's going to work, so why not roll the dice? And I think that's it's definitely symptomatic of our culture at the moment, I think, where everything feels like speculation. Like, we talked about AI, that feels like speculation. It's not real. They're not making profit. You know, that's not, none of those values are real. Like, they're trading at 26 times their revenue, right? So it's like, so what do you believe in? What is there still to believe in now? And if you know, if AI delivers what it's supposed to, what the company's telling investors that it will, then again, like, the whole world is fucked, right? So it's like, there doesn't feel like there's a positive story to hang on to if you're a young person. You're sort of looking at the world and you're thinking, what on earth? Like, do I train as an electrician because all these data centers are going to need maintenance? Like, what do I do? How do I even navigate all of this?
Yeah, one thing I'll say as well is, it's like, just to speak to how insidious the whole, like, sort of prevalence of gambling is. One thing I've noticed lately is that lots of like shops or apps or whatever now have like some sort of roulette mechanic in them. So like, I know I've seen when like members of my family have been on Temu, there'll be a thing come up, like a pop-up in the when they go on Temu, and there's a pop-up, and it's like, you know, pick one of these 3 boxes or spin this wheel or something like that to try and win a prize. My mum gets a Wheel of Fortune spin thing when she puts her meter readings into Octopus's website. For some for some unfathomable reason. Once you put the meter readings, which I have to help her with, obviously, but like, once I've done that, it comes up like, do you want to spin the Wheel of Fortune to try, presumably for a discount or something? I've never actually done it. And today, despite not having bought anything off Amazon for God knows how long now, they just randomly decided they were going to WhatsApp me for the first time ever and they were offering, discounts on kitchenware, but also you can click this link to like spin the wheel and see if you get a bigger discount. And it's like, where the fuck is all this coming from? Like, do you know what I mean? It's just someone seems to have just come up with the idea, and now it's everywhere that like you can spin a wheel to try and get a better like deal with whatever you're paying for or buying or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's just, I think it's like you say, it's preying on the like prevailing air of desperation that everyone has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I recently, just because I was just bored and I wanted to do something on my phone while I was waiting for my flight. I downloaded like the Angry Birds 2, which I know is fucking stone old and like probably dates me to the point of, like I should be taken out back and shot. But like and it's just like, as I was doing the research, and it's like, it's whatever, it's just throw the birds, right? It's just the standard thing, but it's no longer the standard thing because like half of that too is just another form of gambling. It's like, 4-card Monty, where you have to like, not pull the wrong card an infinity times. And like, you can use your credit card to pay for, not stuff you want, but for the in-game currency to buy the thing with, because, that removes the reality of what you're doing from it if you're buying in-game currency. And it's just like it's, and I know it's freemium and like, you don't have to write in, and I know it's not the same as Counter-Strike Go, but it's just like, that too is,
No, yeah, I mean,
it's just the same thing. Like, and you kids will play that all the live long day.
Yeah, it's like loot boxes in stuff. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, isn't it? Where it's like, well, oh look what you could win this, so take a chance, and it's just grim, really, like relentlessly so.
Yeah. Anyway, on that cheery note, shall we, Matt? Unless you have any final thoughts before we do a bit of comment or commentary.
No final thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Okay, well, you're familiar with comment or commentary, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Last Tuesday, I found what had, until recently, been a fine old-fashioned Royal Mail pillar box turned into a filthy litter bin by passers-by. This was on a busy street in Oxford, full of small shops, restaurants, cafes and pubs. I was, for a second, taken back to a visit I made in 1992 to the devastated Somali capital of Mogadishu, once an elegant Italian-style metropolis, but at that time reduced to a terrifying, squalid slum by human conflict and moral decay. I learned from that journey how quickly apparent civilization can slump into barbarism. Is that comment or commentary?
I think that's got to be commentary.
That's fucking glorious. That red letterbox down. I love that. That's really good.
I think that sounds like Richard Littlejohn, but I mean, I don't know if he's still even going, is he?
Oh, he is. Trust us, he is.
Yeah. I think that might be a comment.
That was Peter Hitchens in the Daily Mail.
Ah, nearly.
Shit.
All right, second one. This happened in 2013 in Brazil. Is it a slow news day? Is that comment or commentary?
Commentary.
I'll go comment.
I do want to know what this is in reference to.
That was a comment on the Express. The article was, "Man crushed to death as cow falls through his roof and lands on him." I put that one in purely to have a dig at the Express and the fact that they and bring up the fact that they seem to be just going out of business. Like,
just recycling news. There's not enough news out there. They need to.
I can't find their opinion section on the website anymore. Like,
interesting.
I think they might have like fired all the columnists, but the news is increasingly just someone writing up a Reddit post from 7 years ago or something like that. So hopefully they're in real fire sale hours.
Yeah, maybe we'll buy it just for fun.
Right, third one. It will only be a few years until you can recreate your own version of your favorite show from the past using AI. The best will rise to the top and be viewed by millions, making money for the original creator and money and recognition for the actors. Everyone wins. Is that comment or commentary?
That's a comment.
Yeah, that's a comment, I hope.
Yeah, it was a comment in The Guardian. Did Egg get a Michelin star? Did Super Hands make it to Macedonia? The TV shows that most need a comeback.
I mean, sure, why not? I love to live in, the abundance future where I can just, remix Game of Thrones to my heart content.
Yeah. I've got one last one. True freedom is being told you are on your own. No NHS, nobody to help you. Just your own ability to make coin. And for 99% of people, that won't be enough. But the 1%, seeing the AI boom wiping out the wealth and jobs of the masses, now push anarcho-capitalism. And the learnings from Lord Rees-Mogg's sovereign individual, and so the elites are selling freedom as being free. Free to pay your own way when you will have nothing of value to pay with. No wonder they are also pushing the good book, because like in the 1600s, you always had the divine looking after you. Is that comment or commentariat?
Commentariat, but I think it's commentariat, but I'd love to know who and what article, because I will definitely read it.
Somewhere out there, like Eleanor Yarniga's brain is just fucking exploding. But I think that's commentariat. I think it's The Guardian. Is that John Harris?
No, it was a comment. It was a comment on that Peter Hitchens column, because part of the column was also about how lockdown was the worst crime ever committed against humanity, and this was a comment on that. I assume.
Well, I mean, that's it sounds like a critique from a left perspective. So I think they do exist on the Daily Mail comment section. So what can you say?
Yeah. It's like the that American guy said, though, isn't it? Like, the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of people who supported lockdown. Anyway, that's all I've got for this week.
The founding fathers, what didn't they know? All right, well, if that's all, then please, Matt, if people want more Matt and or, a way out of the hideous maze that is online gambling, where could they go?
They can go to Blue Sky at MZC. They can, if you're still on X for some reason, as I am, you can go at Matt Zarb. If you need help quitting gambling, please check out Gamban, which is available for free if you live in the UK through talkbanstop.com.
Yeah. And if you would like more of us in slightly larger or slightly smaller configurations still, then you can go to patreon.com/praxiscast, where there are 2 bonus episodes a month, probably more actually, given what we usually do around the Christmas season, or the holiday season, I should say, because we're woke. And you can find merch and, gifts for your beloved others at praxiscast.tmail.com. And you can also find streams on, is it still Thursdays and Sundays?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, it is for this week, and then things might go like weird for December, depending on how busy we are. But it is for right now. It's Thursdays and Sundays.
Yeah. And we like I said, we will be cramming, your stocking full of content this festive season. So get on the Patreon, reward yourself. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.